The drama begins with Gammon, a boy who, no matter how much he studied or was sent to the best private institutes, just couldn't improve. In fact, it seemed like he understood less and less. But one day he overhears some classmates saying that geniuses studied at Yusung Technical School. Motivated by that, he decides to enroll. What he didn't know was that this temple of knowledge was actually a school battlefield, where fights mattered more than books. Even so, he clung to his plan, to form a study group. Since he couldn't do it alone, he looked for someone who truly wanted to learn. His target was Sei Hyan, although just at that moment a fight broke out where the loser would drop in the combat rankings. Yes, this school has rankings, for fights. And Sei Hyan ended up losing, giving up his 117th place. In the midst of the chaos, the substitute teacher, Miss Lee, shows up, but no one seemed to care. They didn't even respect her presence. The curious thing is that she had been Gammon's private tutor, and when he excitedly reminds her, he tells her about his plan to form a study group. Gammon starts following Sei Hyan for several days until he finally agrees to study with him, just to be left alone. On their first attempt, Gammon finally understands how fractions work. He had chosen him because, despite how harsh the environment is, Sei Hyan always has a clean uniform. His hand is marked from writing so much, and his eyes reflect a true love for studying. However, he warns him that forming a study group is impossible because of Pai Hanul, the #1 in the fight rankings and the one who created the app everyone uses to challenge each other. The atmosphere is so hostile that even in the bathroom, Sei Hyan is threatened by Hyunwoo, who demands money he doesn't have. Without thinking, Gammon shows up disguised with a welding mask and a fire extinguisher to save him. But Sei Hyan doesn't thank him. On the contrary, he tells him he just made everything worse. Now they'll target him even more and ask for even more money. Later, Sei Hyan runs into Hyunwoo again, but this time Gammon intervenes once more and proves to be much stronger than he looks. Even though he saves him again, Sei Hyan still doesn't fully trust him, believing Gammon is only using him for his own benefit. As if that weren't enough, things don't get any better at home either, as Sei Hyan's father mistreats him for not bringing money, telling him that studying is a waste of time. Meanwhile, Gammon, inspired by a story of perseverance he heard, remains determined to create his study group. Miss Lee, who had removed the cigarette butt barrels from the school, finds them there again the next day. This time they must be hidden quickly because the school inspector is coming. During that cleanup, Miss Lee meets Park Gon-yeop, who suggests she leave the school before things get worse. Later, when Gammon finds the notebook Sei Hyan had left for him as help, Hyunwoo shows up and attacks him with a chair, suspecting he was the masked guy. In the middle of the fight, Gammon tries to retrieve the notebook, but it burns. That's the last straw. But something changes. He finally defends himself seriously, dodges all the attacks, and counters with an epic kick that makes Sei Hyan realize his intentions were sincere. Grateful, he decides to officially join the study group. Shortly after, Miss Lee and the inspector arrive and see what happened. Thanks to the teacher's intervention, Gammon isn't expelled, since the inspector recognizes her as the highest-scoring candidate in history on the teacher qualification exam. Besides, he thinks the study group is a good way to start changing the image of that chaotic school. The next day, we find out Gammon isn't strong by chance. He wakes up at 5 a.m. to train before his mom even wakes up. But the group isn't official yet. They need 5 members and only have 2. So Gammon starts handing out flyers to recruit more people. Still, he says he'll accept them in the order they arrive, because if it were by grades, not even he would qualify. No one dares to join. Until the number 3 in the ranking hears rumors that Gammon defeated Hyunwoo and decides to check for himself. He attacks him, but Gammon dodges him without even realizing it. In the end, he accidentally knocks him out, which leads to exaggerated versions of the fight spreading, like that he sent him to the hospital with a book. That only makes the other students avoid him even more, thinking he won't just beat them up, but also force them to study. Meanwhile, Miss Lee goes to look for Hyunwoo at his house without success and notices that her 2 best students are demotivated. To cheer them up, she takes them to a library, where she finds out Gammon owns every support book available. He only buys pencils, as if that would help him study better. That same day, the teacher tries to contact him to return a book she accidentally took, but she can't reach him. Waiting for her at her apartment are Hyunwoo and other guys, sent by Hanul to give her a warning. She doesn't understand why. Luckily, someone shows up to save her before anything serious happens. No, it's not Gammon. It's Park Gon-yeop. Yes, it was serious. They really wanted to hurt her. The first hit was a mistake, but Park Gon-yeop wasn't going to let them touch her again. Well, that's what he said. In reality, he couldn't do much because there were too many of them, and they left him in bad shape. Luckily, Gammon arrived to the rescue. The best part, Gammon improvised some nunchucks and took everyone down. Meanwhile, Hyun-woo had provoked Park Gon-yeop by mocking the murder of his mother. Big mistake. Park nearly killed him until he confessed that Hanul was responsible. And yes, that same day, his mother was stabbed and killed. The police said it was random, but everyone knows it was a hit. Gammon stopped the fight just in time and told Park he lost because he couldn't control his emotions. That made him even angrier, but it also made him reflect. In this school, trying to change things seems pointless. But someone has to try. After that, Miss Lee returned his Bruce Lee book, hence his talent with nunchucks, of course. Then, one of the students who attacked her came back to apologize. He said Hanul had forced them, and that made her give up on calling the police. She didn't want to punish manipulated kids. That wouldn't solve anything. With only a few days left to complete the 5 members needed for the study club, they receive a message from someone who wants to join. Turns out it was Ju-woo, and yes, this school is co-ed. Gammon froze when he realized she was a girl and hadn't even asked who it was. But just as he was with her, the disciplinary committee showed up to beat her. The strange thing was that she didn't react until they tried to hit her friend. Then, she definitely reminded them who's boss. This upset another girl in the group, and just then Jun-jong walked in, declaring himself Ju-woo's boyfriend. Sei Hyan dragged Gammon away before everything exploded. With no witnesses, Jun-jong offers Ju-woo to forget the punishment if she gives him a kiss. She chooses the punishment, but before it begins, Gammon shows up, throws gum in his face, and just when we thought punches would fly, a teacher arrives to take them to a committee meeting. Even so, Sei Hyan doubts Ju-woo will join, since she's Hyanwoo's twin sister. In fact, the one who signed up was her best friend, Choi Ji-won, because she's moving soon and wants to return a favor. In the past, Ji-won was bullied and Ju-woo defended her, but then her brother messed up a group project and they turned to Kim Ki-won for money. Jun-jong recorded him stealing and now uses the video to blackmail Ju-woo. If she fights back, he'll upload it. Since Ju-woo really wants to study, Gammon and Sei Hyan commit to helping her. And just when the deadline to post the video is about to expire, Gammon goes to retrieve it. You know, if he takes off his glasses, it means action is coming. He takes down the first 2 without a problem. With Jaeon-jong, the judo club captain, it gets tricky. Until we realize he let himself get hit to end up in a better position and recover the USB. Master plan. The problem was that more of the disciplinary committee arrived. While dodging like a ninja, they take his glasses off, and that's when the Real fight begins. But he lets his guard down, the USB falls, and they catch him. Just when they're about to upload the video, somehow, he escapes. He runs off with the CPU, trips over some cables, but lands close to Sei Hyan, who picks it up and runs to the rooftop. From there, he throws the CPU, making sure no one is below. Is it over? Not at all. Ju-woo shows up and makes it very clear to the jerk who harassed her that if he messes with her or her brother again, he won't get off so easy. Meanwhile, Miss Lee has a talk with Hanul. He mocks her for trying to change the school and reminds her of a teacher who was murdered for doing the same thing 2 years ago. He warns her not to get involved, because everything is already under control. But right here, we see a gem of character development. Ji-won. Always calm, kind, never bothering anyone. Until today. Seeing her friends still in danger because of that video, she runs without thinking and hits the girl to get it back. On the other hand, Hanul meets with Ju-woo and tells her that the one who stole it was Hyun-woo, to manipulate both him and his sister. With that information, Ju-woo decides to turn him in to the police. Miss Lee doesn't press charges because she understands his story. They're orphans and only have each other. Punishing him would only make things worse. Instead, she gives him a second chance. Now the study group has 4 members. Ji-won decided not to move and will take a 1.5-hour trip every day to stay with them. The 5th literally came in through the window. The number 1 in 10th grade wants to fight Gammon. And to convince him, he says he'll let Yun-ho, a boy who wants to join, become a member. Only if they fight. Terrible idea. Yun-ho is terrible at fighting, but that's never stopped him. He trains non-stop and looks for fights with anyone willing. One day he heard that the strongest are at Yusung, so he went there. Just like Gammon, he started from the bottom, rank 180, and worked his way up to 17. He got stuck but didn't give up. And now he's fascinated by Gammon. He wants to be like him. But when he says he only wants to learn to fight and not study, they reject him. Still, he agrees to take a test. In the middle of the test, a gangster shows up and mistakes him for Gammon. Yun-ho, seeing the opportunity, accepts the test to enter Yunbaek's gang, the same one his former best friend also joined. He wants to get stronger to win him back. Too bad we didn't see the fight, only the result. He lost. But he wasn't alone. When his friends find out, they go help him just before he gets punished for lying to them. Gammon easily defeats the first one, using the same test Yun-ho passed as a weapon. But Ju-woo and Park Gon-yeop struggle, and he has to step in. In the end, they all stand together in front of the gang leader, an adult who stops one of Gammon's punches cold. Not only that, he sends him flying twice. But we already know how Gammon is. If he lets himself get hit, it's because he has a plan. This time, it was to get Yun-ho out of harm's way and start a fair fight. A 3 versus 1. As it should be. And although at first the gangster dominates them, when Gammon says he sees Yun-ho as a rival, everything changes. Because that, for someone who's always been ignored, means everything. And without knowing it, he also motivates Yun-ho. His former friend never saw him as a rival, but Gammon does. Now it's on, the final fight begins. With the special move his uncle taught him, the unilateral attack. When everything seemed to be over, Min-won showed up to mock Yun-ho's dream of going to college. According to him, the best thing would be for him to take over the support fighters, of course, with his help to improve. Meanwhile, Sei Hyan and Ji-won had gone to the police, who arrested the attackers and took Yun-ho to the hospital. After he recovered, the group was officially recognized as a school club. Let's go quickly through a few events before getting back to the main story. Hyun-woo will be released soon, since Miss Lee didn't press charges. Hanul was also investigated by the police, but thanks to his father's influence, he was set free. Technically, there wasn't enough evidence. That's why Miss Lee now wants to start a disciplinary investigation at the school. Back to the plot, the group gets the opportunity to visit another study group at a school in Seoul to learn how to properly manage their own club. But before that, they get into a fight with two guys who mock them for being from the countryside. Gammon arrived late because he was so excited he couldn't sleep. To hurry him up, Ju-woo sent him a message saying they were at Manic's high school, as a joke for calling him Manic. The bad part is that school actually exists, and it's the worst in the area. Meanwhile, Hanul wasn't wasting time. On his own, he took down an entire gang from another school, making it clear he's not just anybody. Back with Gammon, some students tried to intimidate him for looking like a nerd, but they ended up getting beat up, another point for Gammon's score, even though we didn't see everything on screen. Without knowing it, he ended up helping that school's leader, Young Min, who was being bullied. After seeing him fight, everyone got scared and stopped messing with the serious students. Important detail, those two schools are neighbors. Reporting anything was useless. Even a student's father ended up in a coma for getting involved. As thanks, the group taught them study techniques, like letting the best in each subject lead the session. Young Min apologized to Gammon for having underestimated him before, thinking that only grades mattered. Now he knows that effort is what really counts, and he believes Gammon will become the best in the country. The funny thing is, Gammon didn't even remember him until he introduced himself again. Now as an official club, the school assigns them a room, which they turn into their base with some effort. By the way, feelings begin to develop between Sei Hyan and Ji-won. Later, Miss Lee gives them their ranking positions. Out of 220 students, Gammon is ranked 219, Ji-won is 180, Ju-woo is 162, Yun-ho is 132, and Sei Hyan is second. With 20 days left until the midterm exams, she gives them a study plan. Yun-ho mentions he overheard her talking with the disciplinary director. The condition for supporting the investigation against Hanul is that all club members move up at least 10 spots. A tough goal, but possible. Although Sei Hyan has another problem. His father keeps pressuring him to work in construction. One of his classmates tries to publicly humiliate him, just for fun. Sei Hyan has always been poor, with a broken family. His mother ran away, and his father never valued his academic achievements. Even now, he sees him as a failure. And when Ji-won is kidnapped, that's what finally gives him the strength to fight back. But he's not strong enough. Gammon shows up and humiliates them with a simple finger flick, which only makes Sei Hyan feel worse. Later at home, his father hits him and demands he pay a debt left by his mother, making it clear that before being a mother, she was his wife. He doesn't even tell him where the money came from. As he leaves the apartment, he runs into Gammon, who offers him to stay at his place. But Sei Hyan takes it as pity. He feels that ever since he met him, Gammon has always saved him, and that makes him feel weaker. But this time will be different. He faces his attacker again, and although he hesitates at first, he starts dodging blows and striking back. It wasn't magic, Gammon was giving him instructions over the phone. Everything was going fine. Until the phone died. Gammon ran downstairs to help him, thinking they both just needed a small win to move forward. Like that time he got a single exam question right. But to his surprise, when he arrived, Sei Hyan had already won. On his own, with a headbutt. This victory was his. Then he spent the night at Gammon's house. And no, not the way you're thinking. The problem came the next day. Gammon's mother was furious. He was always supposed to be home before 10 p.m., and on top of that, he didn't answer any of her calls. Her biggest warning, when she says, "Get ready," it means something big is coming. Like when they moved to Mongolia, when he was separated from his taekwondo teacher, or when his parents divorced. She'll probably change his school. That night, Sei Hyan asks him why he wants to study so much if even his mother doesn't care about his grades and he has no financial problems. Gammon gives a half answer. He knows what it feels like when no one believes in you. His parents used to fight over that, and even though his mom defended him, she did it poorly. She said they shouldn't pressure him because he wasn't very smart. That, Sei Hyan understands too. The next day, everyone was anxious waiting for Gammon's mother's decision. And yes, they would be moving. Even though they tried to hide the school's problems, they even beat someone up and covered the smell, it didn't work. Outside, his friends tried to convince her. They told her he had good classmates, that Yoon-ho was his rival, that they needed him. But nothing moved her. Ji-won even said she was pregnant, but not even that worked. Miss Lee arrived late, hoping to stop them. Catching up was easy. The hard part was fighting against the whole school, because many wanted Gammon gone. That way, everything would go back to normal. No one would force them to study. Yoon-ho laughed, knowing that even if Gammon left, he'd still be the second strongest. Without thinking twice, Ju-woo gets out of the car and helps throw punches. Yoon-ho stays behind to buy time. Even though he trusts his strength a lot, this time it's different. Gammon taught him a special technique, to be used only in self-defense and in critical moments. This was one of those, though he still needs practice. They arrive just before the house sale is signed. In a cafe, they try to convince Gammon's mother. Everything seemed useless, until Miss Lee reminds her of the day at her mentor's funeral, Teacher O. She told her not to cry, but to fight in her name. That was her motivation to teach at Yusung. And thanks to Gammon, things are changing, and so is he. Now he has real friends, people who would do anything to keep him close. Just when it seemed like they were convincing her, Hanul's men showed up. He found out about the report Miss Lee had filed and sent Min Won to take care of the matter. Since she didn't let herself be intimidated, they decided to teach her a lesson. But right at that moment, the police arrived, with Gammon's mother leading them. She knows that sometimes, some boys need a lesson to learn. Everything ended well. Even Sei Hyan and Ji-won fought in their own way. Just when it seemed everything was under control, Min Won fired at a glass door and accidentally caused a wooden support to fall on Gammon's mother. The hit was so strong that she was immediately hospitalized, and her condition remained uncertain. But before losing consciousness, she gave her son permission to stay at the school. And with that, she sparked something much bigger. The next day, Gammon didn't train. He went straight to the school's rooftop with a clear goal, to confront Hanul face to face. But as always, Hanul wasn't alone. He left his 3 bodyguards to face him. He told them not to hit Gammon too hard, because that night he had to visit his mother at the hospital. Ironic, right? These 3 bodyguards were no joke. They were strong, very strong. The most dangerous, Song Cheol. And they didn't fight separately. They fought as a true team. In the first round, Gammon fell. From the ground, he remembered his uncle's teachings. If he didn't stay calm, he would lose. So he pulled himself together. And in the second round, he used his dirtiest technique. Eye pokes, groin attacks, and even ripped out an earring. Everything was fair if it was for justice. Gammon didn't hold back and countered with the legendary dragon kick, the same one he once tried to teach Yoon-ho. Meanwhile, downstairs, Miss Lee was having a verbal confrontation with the vice principal during a school meeting. He accused her of tarnishing the school's image. She firmly replied that she was only showing the truth, that the school already looked like a gang, and she was going to change that no matter what, for all those who are bullied. It was Teacher O's dream, and she would fulfill it with all her heart. And just then, Gammon stormed into the meeting and punched Hanul. He responded with a kick, but it didn't matter. Gammon didn't want to win, just to show everyone that Hanul can be hurt too. That he's human. Back to Song Cheol, We saw him arguing with his friends for starting to study. For him, studying was more important than money. But Hanul began to manipulate him. This time, he didn't pay his grandfather's hospital bill to pressure him. He made him feel like he only had one path: join the Yunbek gang, work for 3 years, and get a secure job in Hanul's father's company. Sad, but it was his only option. Or so he thought. One night, Gammon found Song Cheol and told him what had happened to his mother. That made him reflect. When Gammon got home, he saw a test Song Cheol's grandfather had taken. He only answered 4 questions correctly. But that was better than his previous record of 3. And that meant he had improved. His grandfather gave Gammon the same advice he gave his grandson. Studying makes you better than yesterday. He asked Gammon to teach it to his grandson. The next day, the news exploded. Song Cheol was a suspect in a murder. Gammon couldn't believe it. Sei Hyan, seeing how affected his friend was, made an analysis. Crimes committed by minors had increased, while those by adults had decreased. The reason? Hanul was using students to do his dirty work, knowing their punishments would be lighter. One of Song Cheol's friends confirmed that they were trying to frame him. He even saw them cleaning the knife. Gammon, who had already defeated the trainer tailing him, decided to act. The group disguised themselves in uniforms from another school to infiltrate the secret meeting. Outside, the non-fighters were on watch with a drone. Once inside, they split up. Gammon got locked on the rooftop. Yunho had to fight a guy with a knife to cover Juwoo, who was looking for the weapon. Things got messy. Yunho was bleeding, Juwoo was discovered, and the drone crashed. To make things worse, Gammon lost his notebook, just when his teacher called him to practice. And while everything seemed to be going to hell, we learned the real reason for the meeting. Song Cheol was going to join the Yunbek family, accepting a crime in exchange for money and a guaranteed job. But when the detective arrived to arrest him, Song Cheol changed his mind. He didn't want his grandfather to believe he had raised a criminal. He faced off against the trainer to protect Juwoo, but he wasn't alone. His friends arrived to fight alongside him. Even so, they were losing, until Gammon broke down the door and came in with his nunchucks. He hit the trainer so hard he went flying. Still, the guy held on and knocked him down. Gammon, true to his style, had saved the best for last, the legendary 1-inch punch. The guy had it coming for mocking Bruce Lee. Meanwhile, Detective Man, the same one who arrested Hanul, helped uncover the real culprit behind the murder, using a hidden device. Gammon recovered his stolen book from the guy who took it. Once again, he helped a friend. After all this chaos, they went back to studying. For the first time, Gammon felt like he wasn't alone. But when they finished the exam and compared answers, some wrote 5, others wrote 3, and he had written Christopher Columbus. No one understood his sadness. His mother, speaking with Miss Lee, explained that around this time, she always leaves him alone, because he gets strange, distracted, sad. Sei Hyan noticed too. In a store, he said, "Do you know what happens when water boils? Nothing. Until it reaches its point. And then, it changes." That lifted his spirits again. But soon they received more news. Song Cheol's grandfather had passed away. Before he died, Gammon helped him take his exam. It was a gesture Song Cheol would never forget. At the end of the semester, everyone rose more than 10 spots. Gammon made it to 209. With that, they were authorized to take Hanul to the disciplinary committee. Song Cheol also joined the committee and revealed what had happened to teacher Oh. Hanul was responsible for her murder, all to protect his father's image. That's how the app that turned the school into a family was born. With the investigation exposed, everything changed. The students who wanted to study could finally do so in peace. Park Ganyop was afraid the tragedy of his mother would repeat, but Miss Lee was more determined than ever. She would make the school a safe place. But Hanul didn't give up. He called the study group a gang, and offered 1 million won for every rank someone climbed. This unleashed chaos. Even the top students gave in to temptation. For Sei Hyan, it was proof that nothing had really changed. Desperate, his father called him to work because his co-workers accused him of being the son of a criminal. Sei Hyan, exhausted, said he would quit school and left the group. Ji-won's parents came to take her away. Juwoo was disheartened. Miss Lee thought about giving up. But Gammon didn't. He accompanied Sei Hyan on his first day of work. And he managed to convince him to come back. He asked him for 3 years, to study, graduate, and repay all his father's sacrifices. Ji-won convinced her parents by promising to get into Seoul University. Juwoo regained hope. Yunho just kept training. Miss Lee reactivated the hearing. She had proof and witnesses. This time, they wouldn't fail. During the 3 days before it, they all took turns protecting her. But the night before, the vice principal summoned her to confess the truth. Detective Man accompanied her but stayed outside. It was a trap. They took her phone and threatened to kill her like they had Teacher O. But she wasn't afraid. And just when everything seemed lost, her students arrived. The final battle had begun. Gammon faced Hanul. Juwoo and Song Cheol fought together. Yoon-ho battled his former friend. Sei Hyan dodged pellets. But everyone held on. And little by little, they turned the tide. In the end, Gammon used another forbidden technique to defeat Hanul. He told him yes, things can change. Outside, Juwoo led a battle against all of Hanul's followers. And the best part? She recruited every person they had helped before. The meeting was held. Hanul was expelled. The vice principal's recorded confession and Hanul's admission closed the case. Everyone deleted the app. The school changed. Hyunwoo was released and punished by his sister. Park Gon-yeop joined the Yunbek gang to destroy it from the inside. And the study group, now more united than ever, won't rest until they get into university. End of the drama.